All right. Well, we are joined here today by Colleen Lawler. She is a very busy lady, so thank you very much for spending a couple minutes with us this morning. So we just want to ask you a couple questions here and see if you could provide a little bit of insight with some of your experience and knowledge.
Fire away.
All right. So let me ask you this. So we'll just get right to it. So if you could describe for us a time where you have maybe experienced a situation where you weren't as experienced as you are now. You're an inexperienced agent, and you made a mistake that cost your clients the deal, either selling the house or buying a house.
I would say that less experienced agent probably has more difficulty telling people what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. Even today, I'll have somebody that has a good offer on the table, and naturally they want more money, but it's my job to put it in context with the market and help them understand that that's a good offer. Many years ago when the market was falling, I had a lot of experience, but I still remember to this day and a lady who was in my office pointing her finger on the table going, "You should have made me take that offer." And I still regret I didn't make her take it. I know I couldn't make her do anything, but I feel like maybe I should have pushed harder to help her understand that was probably going to be the best offer she saw.
Yeah, I could see that happening probably a lot with clients in this industry.
I want them to get every dollar when they're selling their home, but at the same time, I don't want them to regret passing up an offer thinking that there's a better one down the road, because sometimes there isn't.
How long have you been a real estate agent?
28 years.
28 years, okay. So there's a huge difference. I see it all the time. I work with hundreds of agents over the years, and it's a massive, drastic difference between an unexperienced agent and an agent with experience. When buying or selling a home, it seems like, especially in today's market, it comes down to two things. It's preparation and negotiation. And in particular, if you're lacking those two things, you usually do not get the house that you want.
Correct.
Are you experiencing that?
That's true, and part of that is on every level, in almost every profession, there's something to be said for managing expectations. And so as a real estate agent, it's my job. Managing expectations sounds kind of clinical, I guess, but really what it means is this is the reality of this market. If you are going to buy a house in this price range, there are 8 other people who are trying to buy the same house. So go in strong and make an offer that you can sleep with that night if you don't get the house, as opposed to saying, okay, we're going to get you a great deal on this house. When there's 8 other people trying to buy it, a great deal is getting the house.
Well said. Well, let me put it this way. There's a lot of agents out there that maybe are one-man bands.
Sure.
And it seems like to have a team that specializes in different areas makes a huge difference. How many people are on your team?
There's a total of 8 people on the team, and I think the easiest way for a consumer to understand a team is to compare it to a doctor's office. When you make an appointment, you're not talking to the doctor, you're talking to the receptionist. When you sit down in the examining room, you have a nurse that's taking your temperature and your blood pressure and maybe putting you on the scale, and then you see the doctor. Each person in that office has a specific responsibility, and it's the same way in real estate now. There are not enough hours in the day to tend to every task of getting a home sold or helping a buyer. Unless you're doing one deal every couple of weeks, and then it's hard to put bread on your table. So a team breaks it down and gives everybody their own area of expertise and also their own area of accountability, so that every task along the way has somebody who's in charge of it and somebody who's responsible for making sure it gets done.
Can you give us an example on how that works? So say I'm a client of yours and I'm looking to buy a house.
Sure.
And I want to go see this home.
Mm-hmm.
What steps do I take to go see that house?
Well, I think before you even go see the house, a good real estate agent is going to ask you if you've talked to a lender, because for a couple of reasons. One is life is all about time. Your time, the agent's time, the seller's time. So let's have you take a look at the house if we know that you are qualified to make an offer on it once you see it, if you like it. So a good agent is going to have somebody good in terms of a lender that they can refer a buyer to see if they're good to go, at least preliminarily on a house before they even show it. Then another important thing is to find out why they want to see that house. It goes to what their motivation is, what their needs are, and how you can help them meet their goals. So is it the area? Is it the style? Is it that they have friends that live on the same street? Or they've got parents nearby? Or it's closer to work? Or any of those kinds of things all go into that. So being sure that you're prepared financially to take that time and take the agent's time and take the seller's time, because you're asking them to evacuate their premises so you can have a look. All of that goes toward helping you take a look at the house. Once you see it and you make an offer, then you've got somebody who's taking care of the loan for you and somebody that's really good at it. It's great. It's so much weight off your shoulder if you're not having to worry about that, and you know somebody's got your back on that, and if they need something, they're going to let you know about it rather than you guessing what they might need or expect from you. And then to have an agent or somebody on an agent's team who's very well versed in the inspection process of the property, who has a good relationship with the title company, so we know you're getting clear title and we're not going to have problems at the last minute. All of that comes together. So it's almost like a concert between you and a seller and a lender and an agent and a title company.
On that page, what would your advice be to someone who says, well, I'm going to take those steps after I find the house that I like?
And people do that. People do that every day. If I'm the listing agent for that house and you take a look at that house and you want to put in an offer, one of the things when I see that offer is I'm going to look to see if there's a pre-approval or a pre-qualification that accompanies the offer. If I don't have one, you're probably going to get a counter offer that includes that I get that in hand before the seller's going to be committed. So just as you're going to have an agent who's working really strongly on your behalf and is going to be saying, this is a great buyer and we'll get that. You're going to have somebody on the other side saying, yeah, but sorry, you got to show me the money before I'm going to tie this house up with you.
Show me the money. So basically, if you're listing a home and you get two offers at the same time, one has a pre-qualification and one doesn't, you would be inclined, you would have to go with the one with the pre-qualification for the sake of your clients.
Or I'd put the brakes on everybody and say, best and final offer by this date, and you better have a good pre-approval that accompanies.
Got it. Awesome. Okay. Well, all right. So when buying or selling a home, there's obviously many important things. Let's say when selling a home, what are the three most imperative aspects that need to take place that you shouldn't even consider even thinking about selling your home before you do these three things? I know this is off the cuff, but what would you say?
First thing is going to be, I would say, first thing is to call a real estate agent, because a lot of people will start preparing their home for the market. They may be painting, they may be putting some money into some updates. They may start that process because they want it to look nice when an agent comes in, so that agent tells them their house is worth that much more at that point. But if you have an agent that comes to the door before you do anything, there can be dishes in the sink, the beds don't have to be made, the house doesn't have to be perfect. But if that agent can walk through that house with you and you can ask them, I was thinking about painting this room because it's purple and I thought I'd go gray. Or do you think I need to do the carpet? Or what do you think about these appliances? That agent is going to be able to walk through the whole house look at all of that in total and tell you where your dollar is best spent and where your time is best spent. Because sometimes clean is better than spending money, and a good agent's going to be able to show you things that are cost effective and are going to give you the most value when you hit the market. There have been many times when I walk into a house where somebody's prepared their house before I get there,
Right.
and I will see a beige wall with a pink undertone, and it's done in a satin finish. So every blemish on the wall can be seen because that reflects light, and it looks pink half of the day depending on the light in the house. So I'm not good at picking little swatch colors, but I know what colors go on a wall that are going to be right to be able to sell a house. But when I walk in and somebody has spent the time and spent the money, and it is not going to help and it may hinder, that's just really a hard discussion. I hate it.
So that's good. That's great, because that seems like it's very common for people to think that their house has to be prestigious and done meticulously before a real estate agent comes out. But in reality, don't be too concerned about doing any of that stuff. Have the real estate out agent far in advance before wanting to list your home, and then you can get some expert advice before you spend time and money and energy. Exactly. And then every minute and every dollar you put into it are going to pay dividends, and you're not going to be doing things you don't need to do. You're not going to be spending time you don't need to spend, or money. Right, because at that point you're trying to sell your house. You're not going to live there anyway, so what do you care about the color?
Yeah.
You just want it to sell.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's not easy, but it's smart.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that, because people, they have an emotional attachment to their home at that point.
Of course they do.
I'm sure you ran into many instances when there have been multiple offers on a home. What approach do you and your team take to ensure that your clients have the best or the strongest possibility of gaining that contract on that home?
Well, one of the most important things is to have a clean offer. By that I mean, don't encumber it with a lot of personal property, like, hi, I would like the house and the washer and the dryer, and can I have those curtains in that bedroom, and I need a home warranty, and I'd like to have possession 3 days before closing, and oh yeah, I've got to close on my other house. Instead, if you have a strong pre-approval that says you're qualified for what you're writing for, or maybe even more, and I'll circle back around to that, but you've got a strong pre-approval, maybe you check with the listing agent before you even write to say, what is the seller's best closing date? Because if you've got flexibility and you know up front what is the best date for that seller, when do they want to close? Doesn't cost you anything if you're flexible, and you're going right to one of the important terms to that seller. So knowing what kinds of things that seller needs in terms of closing date and that sort of thing, so that you can write to that. Always, if you suspect you're going to be in multiples, you would want your agent to check to see if they have any offers on the table. It's kind of hard if you write an offer and when that lands, the agent says, oh, I sold it 2 hours ago, wish I knew this was coming. So there has to be a lot of communication up front. This sounds kind of, might sound silly, but it's effective. Write a letter about what you like about their home, your plans, hopes, dreams in that house, and submit it with your offer. Some people will go, it doesn't matter, I want the buyer with the most money and that's it. But over 50% of the people are going to take that into consideration. And I have had buyers get houses for less money because they put something personal about themselves in it. One time I had a lady just say, I know you've lived in this house for 45 years. Please come back and visit anytime you like. Doesn't cost you anything, and it got the buyer the house for less money than another offer that was on the table. Your agent can give you some guidance about that, but a lot of times that can be a tipping point.
That is phenomenal advice. So thank you so much for sharing that. Seriously, that's great stuff, and I've seen that exact same thing happen, and there's no doubt about it. It certainly couldn't hurt.
Nope.
And
Doesn't hurt at all.
you did bring up something about the pre-approval during that I had a question about
Okay.
because you hear different
So
things.
I'll get an offer. Say I have a house that's listed at $200,000, and I get an offer for $190,000 with a pre-approval for $190,000. Guess what? If my seller's going to counter, they're going to say, then one of my countering points becomes, I need a pre-approval for the final sale price within 24 hours after this offer is accepted, or I need it before I respond. I think that buyers don't want to give away their cards. They don't want to show a seller what they can really afford, what their top dollar is from their lender. From the seller's point of view, a buyer that is qualified for much more than even the list price is a stronger buyer. And there's nothing wrong with that seller seeing that you are more than qualified to buy the house. At whatever price you want to buy it at, that's separate from what you can afford. And people that have buckets and buckets of money can afford a whole lot than they spend most of the time. So it just makes you shows you as stronger as a buyer, and it saves some countering back and forth. And it again could be a tipping point if you're in competition and somebody else says, hey, I can afford $100,000 more, but you can only afford this much. Which one is that seller going to look at?
I couldn't agree more. Have you ever been in a situation as when listing a home, when selling a home, have you ever been in a situation, for example, where you did get a pre-approval for 190 and the home was listed for 200,000 and you and the sellers had a discussion and said, well, all they can afford is 190, so let's sell it for 190. Has that ever happened?
No. I usually tell the seller, they probably don't want us to know what they're pre-approved for, so they wrote it for what their offer is, and they instructed their loan officer to go ahead and get them a pre-approval for that amount. So if you want to respond to this, one of the things we're going to add is that we need to see a pre-approval for the final sale price. So it's going to get there anyway, but it just adds a little chink that doesn't need to be there, I don't think, most of the time.
Excellent. So thank you very much for spending time with us. The Colleen Lawler, we appreciate it. And one more thing. So very specifically, who specifically is the best mortgage banker that you've ever talked to in your life?
Well, today that would be you, Chris.
All right.